The void had devoured 1,000,000 worlds, and the Denobulans were next. Locked in a losing war against the all-consuming darkness for over 500,000 years, the ancient alien race teetered on the brink of extinction. Their once thriving civilization lay in ruins, reduced to a handful of battered strongholds and dwindling fleets of ships. Desperation drove Gruss, a young Denobulan scout, to scour the lifeless void between stars for any glimmer of hope. What he found surpassed his wildest dreams: a derelict human sleeper ship, drifting silently through the cosmos. The ship's AI spoke of an Earth that died long ago, its inhabitants fleeing into the depths of space, with technology the Denobulans could scarcely comprehend. Gruss's trembling fingers punched in the code to awaken the ship's commanding officer from cryosleep. Tyler Evans, a grizzled human veteran, emerged from his frozen slumber, his eyes hard and haunted. Disbelief and anger warred within him as Gruss explained the dire situation outside the ship's hull. 500,000 years had passed, and a relentless foe threatened to snuff out the last lights of life in the galaxy. But Evans had not come this far to watch another civilization fall. He had seen Earth burn, had borne the weight of his own failures and regrets for centuries. In the Denobulan's plight, he saw a chance for redemption, a chance to make a stand against the encroaching darkness. Evans agreed to aid the Denobulans, but on his own terms. The humans would fight as they always had, with their own weapons and tactics. As the sleeper ship roared to life, setting course for the nearest Denobulan outpost, Evans began the process of awakening his crew. Warriors out of time, the last hope for a galaxy on the edge of oblivion. But the true nature of the void and the price of victory would test these ancient soldiers in ways they had never imagined. For in the face of annihilation, even the indomitable human spirit has its limits. As the sleeper ship streaked through the void, Evans stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the distant pinprick of light that marked the Denobulan stronghold. The weight of 500,000 years pressed down on him, a burden he had never asked to bear. But there was no turning back now. The fate of an entire civilization rested on his shoulders. A flicker of movement caught his eye. A shape detached itself from the starfield, growing larger with each passing second. Evans leaned forward, his hands tightening on the console. "Magnify!" he barked. The view screen shimmered, resolving into the angular lines of a void warship. Its hull was a mottled black, drinking in the light of the stars. Energy crackled along its flanks, a promise of destruction. "Red alert," Evans said, his voice steady. "All hands to battle stations." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as the crew rushed to their posts. Evans felt a flicker of pride as he watched them work, these warriors out of time. They moved with the smooth efficiency of a well-oiled machine, guided by centuries of training and an unbreakable spirit. The void ship opened fire, lances of searing energy stabbing through the void. The sleeper ship shuddered as its shields absorbed the blows, the deck vibrating beneath Evans' feet. "Return fire," he ordered. "All weapons, full spread." The sleeper ship's advanced weaponry flared to life, a dazzling array of particle beams and plasma torpedoes. The void ship's shields flared, then failed, unable to withstand the onslaught. Explosions rippled across its hull, venting atmosphere and debris into the void. Evans watched impassively as the enemy vessel crumpled, reduced to a shattered hulk in a matter of moments. The humans had spent centuries perfecting their craft of war, honing their technology to a razor's edge. Against such might, the void stood little chance. As the wreckage of the void ship spun away into the darkness, Evans turned his attention back to the Denobulan stronghold. It loomed before them now, a sprawling complex of domes and spires clinging to the surface of a barren moon. Scars of past battles marred its surface, a testament to the Denobulan's centuries of struggle against the void. The sleeper ship docked with a shudder, umbilical lines snaking out to latch onto the stronghold's airlock. Evans took a deep breath, then stepped forward as the airlock cycled open. Gruss was waiting for him on the other side, flanked by a pair of Denobulan guards. The young scout's eyes were wide as he took in the sight of the human crew, their faces hard and their weapons gleaming. "Commander Evans," Gruss said, his voice trembling slightly, Welcome to Bastion Prime. High Commander Zorax is waiting for you in the command center. Evans nodded, then gestured for his crew to follow as Gruss led them into the heart of the stronghold. The corridors were cramped and dimly lit, the air thick with the scent of sweat and fear. Denobulans hurried past, their faces gaunt and their eyes haunted. Many bore the scars of battle, cybernetic implants glinting in the half-light. As they walked, Evans studied the Denobulans' technology, noting the similarities and differences to his own. The Denobulans were a highly advanced race, but their centuries of war had taken a toll. Their equipment was battered and worn, held together by sheer force of will. The command center was a vast chamber, its walls lined with flickering screens and pulsing consoles. In the center of the room stood a massive holographic display, a swirling maelstrom of stars and planets. And there, standing before it, was High Commander Zorax. Evans felt Gruss stiffen beside him as they approached. Zorax was an imposing figure, his broad shoulders draped in a battle-scarred cloak. His face was lined and weathered, his eyes hard as flint. He turned as they entered, his gaze sweeping over the humans with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. "So," Zorax rumbled, his voice like gravel, "these are the warriors from the past, come to save us from the void." Evans met the High Commander's gaze unflinchingly. "We're here to fight," he said, "to stand with you against the darkness." Zorax's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. "Pretty words," he said, "but words alone will not win this war. You have destroyed one void ship, yes, but there are thousands more. Millions." Evans nodded. "We know the odds," he said, "but we've faced worse, and we've never backed down from a fight." Zorax studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. "Let us see what you can do." As the High Commander turned back to the holographic display, Evans felt a flicker of hope. The road ahead would be long and painful, the battles fierce and bloody. But for the first time in centuries, the Denobulans had a chance to push back the darkness, to reclaim what had been lost. And with the might of the human race at their side, anything was possible. The relative calm of the command center shattered as alarms blared throughout the Denobulan stronghold. Evans snapped to attention, his eyes fixed on the holographic display as it erupted with a swarm of red indicators. "Void forces," Zorax growled, his clawed hands clenching into fists. "They've found us." Evans turned to his crew, their faces set with steadfast perseverance. "Battle stations," he ordered. "We hold this line." As the humans rushed to their positions, Denobulan warriors poured into the command center, their cybernetic implants pulsing with energy. Zorax barked orders in his native tongue, coordinating the defense with practiced efficiency. The first impacts rocked the stronghold, shaking dust from the ceiling. Evans steadied himself against a console, watching as the void ships swarmed around their sanctuary like angry hornets. "Shields at 80%, a Denobulan technician called out. "Enemy vessels breaching the outer perimeter." Evans gritted his teeth. "Return fire! All batteries! Full spread!" The stronghold's weapons flared to life, lances of energy stabbing out into the void. Void ships exploded in silent bursts of light, but for every one destroyed, 2 more took its place. Hours blurred into a chaotic maelstrom of explosions, shouted orders, and the acrid smell of overheating circuitry. Evans found himself shoulder to shoulder with Zorax, the 2 commanders working in unison to repel wave after wave of void attacks. But it wasn't enough. Slowly, inexorably, the void pushed them back. Sections of the stronghold went dark, overrun by the relentless enemy. The defenders retreated deeper into the base, their numbers dwindling with each passing moment. "We can't hold them," Zorax said, his voice tight with frustration. "There are too many." Evans opened his mouth to respond when a massive tremor shook the entire structure. Warning klaxons screamed as a new threat loomed on the tactical display. "Void warship," Evans breathed, his eyes widening at the sheer size of the vessel. "It's breached our defenses." Zorax snarled, pounding his fist against the console. "If that ship isn't stopped, we're finished." Evans' mind raced, weighing options and discarding them just as quickly. There was only one choice, and he knew it. "I'm taking a team aboard," he said, already moving towards the exit. "We'll destroy it from the inside." Zorax grabbed his arm, his eyes searching Evans' face. "You realize this is likely a one-way mission?" Evans nodded grimly. "Sometimes that's the price we pay." As Evans assembled his strike team, a familiar voice called out, "I'm coming with you." It was Gruss, the young Denobulan scout who had first discovered the human sleeper ship. His eyes burned with a fierce drive that Evans recognized all too well. "It's dangerous," Evans warned, but Gruss stood his ground. "This is my fight too," the Denobulan insisted. "I won't stand by while others risk everything." Evans nodded, clapping Gruss on the shoulder. "Welcome aboard, kid." The team moved swiftly through the crumbling stronghold, dodging falling debris and pockets of void resistance. They reached the massive breach where the void warship had punched through, its dark bulk looming before them like a malevolent mountain. "On me," Evans ordered, activating his suit's magnetic boots. They leapt across the gulf of space, landing on the void ship's hull with muted thuds. Inside, the ship was a maze of twisted corridors and pulsing organic matter. The team fought their way through waves of void defenders, their weapons cutting through the alien flesh. As they neared the ship's core, Evans noticed Gruss lagging behind, his movements growing sluggish. "You okay, kid?" Gruss nodded, but his eyes were unfocused. "There's something wrong here. Can't you feel it?" Evans was about to respond when they rounded a corner and found themselves in a vast chamber. At its center pulsed a writhing mass of energy, tendrils of darkness reaching out in all directions. "By the ancestors," Gruss whispered, his face pale, "it's not just a ship, it's alive." As Evans stared at the core, a terrifying realization washed over him. The void wasn't just an alien force. It was entropy itself, the fundamental decay of the universe given form and purpose. "Plant the charges," Evans ordered, his voice hoarse. "We end this now." The team worked quickly, setting explosive devices around the chamber. But as they prepared to retreat, a surge of void defenders poured in, cutting off their escape. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Evans found himself back-to-back with Gruss, fighting desperately against the overwhelming odds. A stray energy blast caught Gruss in the chest, sending him sprawling. "Gruss!" Evans shouted, fighting his way to the fallen Denobulan's side. A human soldier threw himself into the path of another attack meant for Gruss, his body disintegrating in a flash of light. Evans scooped up Gruss, the young scout's body limp in his arms. "Fall back!" he roared, leading the remnants of his team towards the exit. They barely made it clear of the void ship before the charges detonated. The massive vessel shuddered, then erupted in a cataclysmic explosion that lit up the battlefield like a newborn star. In the aftermath, Evans stood in the Denobulan medical bay, watching as doctors fought to save Gruss's life. The young scout's body was a map of scars and burns, his life hanging by a thread. A somber Zorax approached, his eyes fixed on Gruss's still form. "You've bought us time," he said quietly, "but at what cost?" Evans had no answer. He knew that this victory, hard-fought as it was only the beginning. The true battle against the void, against the very nature of entropy itself, still lay ahead. As if in response to his thoughts, a technician burst into the medical bay. "Hi, Commander," she said, her voice tinged with awe and fear. "We've detected an anomaly on the edge of our space, like nothing we've ever seen before." Evans and Zorax exchanged a look. Whatever this anomaly was, it could be the key to turning the tide against the void once and for all. In his hospital bed, Gruss stirred fitfully, lost in fevered dreams of darkness and light, of a universe balanced on the edge of a knife. And deep in the void between stars, something ancient and terrible stirred, sensing the challenge to its dominion. The next phase of the war was about to begin. The anomaly loomed before them, a swirling vortex of warped energy that defied the laws of physics. Evans stood at the helm of the expedition ship, his eyes fixed on the phenomenon that could hold the key to ending the war against the void. "All systems nominal," reported the Denobulan navigator. "We're ready to proceed, Commander." Evans nodded, his fists tight. Take us in! The ship shuddered as it breached the anomaly's outer barrier. Reality itself seemed to twist and bend around them, the laws of space and time becoming malleable. Gruss, standing at Evans's side, gripped the console tightly, his face a mask of awe and trepidation. As they penetrated deeper into the anomaly, the familiar confines of their ship gave way to a surreal landscape of shifting energies and impossible geometries. Bizarre entities of pure light drifted past, their forms constantly morphing and reshaping. "My God," breathed Evans, "what are they?" Before anyone could respond, a tendril of energy reached out, brushing against their minds. In an instant, a flood of information overwhelmed their consciousness. "We are entropy. We are the void. We are the inevitable end of all things." The revelation hit Evans like a physical blow. The void wasn't a malevolent force bent on destruction. It was the very nature of reality itself, the primal chaos that existed beyond the fragile order of the universe. "Your struggle is futile. To resist us is to defy the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. Cease your efforts or face consequences beyond your comprehension." Evans recoiled from the entity's touch, his mind blown. He turned to see the same shocked expressions mirrored on the faces of his crew. "We can't give up," he said, his voice hoarse. "Not after everything we've sacrificed." A warning klaxon shattered the moment. "Void forces detected," shouted the tactical officer. "They've breached the anomaly." The surreal landscape erupted into chaos as Void's shock troops materialized around them. Energy weapons flared, filling the air with deadly beams of light. "Take cover," Evans ordered, diving behind a console as return fire erupted from his team. The battle raged across the twisted landscape, human and denobulan allies fighting side by side against the relentless Void forces. Evans saw Gruss duck and weave through the melee, his cybernetic enhancements giving him superhuman speed and agility. A scream of pain cut through the din. Evans turned to see Lux, one of his most trusted human officers, crumple to the ground, a gaping wound in her chest. "Medic!" Evans shouted, rushing to her side. But as he cradled her head, he knew it was too late. Lux's eyes found his, clouded with pain but filled with urgency. "Commander," she gasped, Don't make the same mistake. The laws of physics, they can't be broken. Find another way." Her body went limp in his arms. Evans felt a cold fury building inside him, threatening to overwhelm his reason. He gently laid Lux's body down and stood, his eyes scanning the battlefield until they locked onto a massive spherical structure pulsing with energy. "That's it," he muttered. "The power source." Evans turned to Gruss, who had fought his way to his side. "We need to get to that structure. It's the key to ending this war." As they fought their way towards the sphere, Evans' mind raced. If they could harness this technology, replicate it on a larger scale, they could create a prison for the Void itself, a way to contain entropy, to halt the inexorable march of chaos. The structure loomed before them, its surface rippling with strange energies. Evans placed his hand against it, feeling the raw power thrumming beneath his palm. "This is it," he said, his voice filled with steadfast perseverance. "With this, we can build a citadel, a fortress to contain the Void forever." Gruss looked at him, uncertainty in his eyes. "But Commander, what about what the entity said? The consequences?" "We don't have a choice," Evans cut him off. "This is our only chance to save everything we fought for." As they began to analyze the structure, preparing to unlock its secrets, Evans pushed aside the nagging doubts, the warnings of the entity, and Lux's dying words. He had come too far, sacrificed too much, to turn back now. The battle raged on around them, but Evans barely noticed. His focus was singular, his mind consumed with visions of the citadel that would be their salvation. And as the plans took shape in his mind, he failed to see the shadow of dread that passed over Gruss's face, or the way the very fabric of reality seemed to shudder at the audacity of their plan. The citadel rose against the starfield, a monument to human ingenuity and denobulan cooperation. Its crystalline spires pulsed with energy, containing the very essence of entropy within. Evans stood at the observation deck, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex at the structure's core. "It's done," he breathed, turning to face Gruss. "We've contained the void." But the denobulan's face was drawn, his eyes haunted. "At what cost, Commander?" Before Evans could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The deck shuddered beneath their feet as reality itself seemed to twist and warp around them. "Status report," Evans barked into his comm unit. A frantic voice crackled back. "Sir, we're detecting massive temporal distortions throughout denobulan space. The fabric of space-time is fracturing." Evans' blood ran cold as Lux's final words echoed in his mind. The laws of physics. They can't be broken. Years blurred into decades, then centuries. The once proud denobulan civilization crumbled, its remnants struggling to survive in a universe gone mad. Gruss, now High Commander, stood before the assembled council, his face lined with the weight of countless impossible decisions. "The temporal anomalies are spreading," he reported, his voice heavy. "We've lost contact with our outer colonies. The entropy pockets are consuming entire star systems." Murmurs of fear rippled through the chamber. An elder council member stood, her eyes blazing. "This is the price of our hubris. We should never have attempted to cage the fundamental forces of the universe." Gruss's gaze fell upon the holographic projection of the Citadel, its frozen occupants eternally vigilant. "Commander Evans made the only choice he could," he said softly. "Without him, without the humans, none of us would be here." But doubt gnawed at him. The visions that plagued his sleep, a universe unraveling, reality itself coming apart at the seams, grew more vivid with each passing day. In the shadow of the Citadel, a new movement took root. Denobulans gathered in growing numbers, their eyes fixed on the frozen figures within. "The Eternals," they whispered, a mixture of reverence and longing in their voices. "They alone have transcended the bonds of time." Gruss watched the cult grow, unease coiling in his gut. Their fervor bordered on madness, a desperation born of a dying universe. Centuries passed, and Gruss found himself once more before the Citadel. Its once pristine surface was marred by fissures, hairline cracks in reality itself. He placed a hand against the cold crystal, feeling the thrum of power beneath. "What would you do, old friend?" he murmured, his eyes finding Evans' frozen form. "How do we save a universe that's tearing itself apart?" A tremor shook the ground, more violent than any before. Alarms screamed to life as Gruss sprinted toward the command center. The scene that greeted him was chaos incarnate. "Report!" he bellowed over the din. A young technician turned, her face ashen. "It's the cult, sir. They've breached the outer defenses. They're trying to join the Eternals." Gruss watched in horror as the monitor showed cultists swarming the Citadel's base. Energy readings spiked off the charts as their crude devices interfaced with the stasis field. "No," Gruss breathed. "They'll destabilize the entire—" His words were cut off by a deafening roar. The view screen blazed white, then cracked and went dark. When Gruss's vision cleared, he saw a nightmarish landscape outside the shattered window. Reality itself seemed to boil and twist, a cancerous growth of fractured space-time spreading outward from the Citadel. The cult's madness had triggered something far worse than they could have imagined. Gruss staggered to his feet, his mind racing. There was only one option left, one final, terrible choice. "Prepare the entropy reversal protocols," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "We're going to overload the reactor." His second-in-command paled. "But, sir, that would mean—" "I know what it means," Gruss cut him off. "May the ancestors forgive me." As the last denobulan refugees huddled in their final stronghold, Gruss stood before the reactor controls. His hand hovered over the activation switch, trembling. "I'm sorry, Evans," he whispered. "I hope you can understand." With a silent prayer, he threw the switch. Energy surged through the Citadel, the stasis field fluctuating wildly. For a brief, eternal moment, Gruss locked eyes with the reanimated Evans. Understanding passed between them, a shared burden of impossible choices. Then, in a blinding flash, it was over. The citadel shattered, releasing its pent-up energies in a wave that consumed everything in its path. Void and human alike vanished in the maelstrom. When the light faded, Gruss found himself standing at the edge of a cosmic scar. The fracture had been contained, sealed by the very forces they had sought to imprison. But the price... He turned to face the handful of surviving denobulans, their eyes wide with a mixture of relief and horror. The universe had been saved, but at a cost none of them had truly been prepared to pay. "What now, Commander?" a young officer asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Gruss looked out at the scarred remains of their world, the echoes of humanity's sacrifice etched into the very fabric of reality. "Now," he said softly, "we rebuild, and we remember."
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.